Hey, welcome everybody. Innvictis Bioscience Humics-101 Complexity Simplified. And essentially what we mean by that is there's a complexity around humic acids, where they go, how they work, where they fit. And we're going to take a little time here just to break them down in terms of what exactly humic acids are, what are the challenges that we face, how those products that we have in our lineup help us, direct us, and the biggest thing is give us the ROI for the grower. And I want to introduce everyone here today. I'll introduce myself first. Cody Eubanks, Innvictis Bioscience Product Manager. I've been with Simplot a little over 17 and a half years. Started in the field as a crop advisor, Western Nebraska. Moved here just northwest of Boise to Emmett, Idaho, about 4 years ago. To my left, we've got Josh Perotto. You want to introduce yourself, Josh?
Yeah, Josh Perotto, Innvictis Bioscience Product Manager. I've been with the company for about 18 months. Previous to this, I filled a role as a proprietary products manager for Loveland Products Nutrien. I was also a crop advisor for about 5 years, 5 growing seasons. Really excited to be here. Really excited to talk about our humics and some of our Innvictis Bioscience products.
Awesome. It's great to have you, Josh. I love your excitement. To my right, we've got Ty Applegate, legendary Ty Applegate.
Thanks, Cody. Ty Applegate, longtime Simplot employee, came from the SGS side. I've been with the company about 35 years, for the last 10 in the specialty products side of it. First PhD, and now currently I am the senior account manager for the Mountain West on the bioscience side.
Awesome, Ty. It's great to have you. Love having your insights with all those years of experience, and especially in the field, and been a big user of these products for a lot of years. Seen where they work and how they fit into the grower programs, and that kind of leads me into just an overall view. Obviously, fertilizer investments are quite expensive. Growers have a lot of challenging decisions to face, and where are they going to put their dollars? I think humics provide a lot of opportunity to improve some of those efficiencies of the fertility. But at the end of the day, our biggest goal is to improve that ROI to our grower. And I think humics, our composed line of products, do that very well. And we're going to break into that and give us a little bit of a look into those products. But we're going to start a little bit broader and just cover the challenges that we face out there in ag today and in the current farming situation. And Josh, would you be so gracious to kind of walk us through some of these challenges that we've got?
Yeah, so let's talk about the challenges. So growers have fewer acres. Growers are trying to produce more food on fewer inputs, on fewer acres. There's challenges associated with economics. There's agronomic challenges. Growers have challenges associated with their nutrient solubility, availability, and uptake. That uptake can have its challenges, whether it's through the rooting system or whether it's through the tissue. There's agronomic challenges associated with our soils. Our soils have high pHs, low pHs, less organic matter. We're having harder times getting good water penetration, distribution, and retention. And there's a big conversation right now with the challenges associated with our soil's health. We're constantly mining our soils. We're constantly tilling our soils, but those are just some challenges in agriculture and some agronomic challenges that our growers face.
Great, Josh. I appreciate that, adding in some of those challenges. I mean, we're essentially taking products that have the ability to improve some of these fertilizer efficiencies in the rooting zone, through the leaves, tight soils, get crusting issues, things like that. We can mellow the ground with some of these products. So there's a lot of those challenges that we face, and just to back into this, let's just look at what a healthy soil would potentially contain. You're basically at 45% minerals, so sand, silt, clay, 25% air, 25% water, roughly 5% organic matter. Unfortunately, I've never worked with any soil that had over about a 1.1%, but I like to think of a healthy soil, and that's pretty impressive, 5%. 10% fresh organic residue. We can see 30 to 50% active fraction of that organic matter. 30 to 50% stabilized organic matter, which would be in a humus type, which is right along the lines of what we're discussing today. And then we've got about 5% made up of living organisms. And guys, just as a quick reference, in your experiences in the field, and I'll start with Josh, how many soils have you seen or worked with that were a true healthy type soil with the correct levels?
So I've worked in agriculture for some time now, and I've pulled lots of soil samples in Idaho and in other geographies, and every time I get those soil samples back, they have a real low organic matter, and when we think about a healthy soil, you can correlate that with your organic matter, right? And so for the hundreds or thousands of soil samples that I've pulled or we've pulled, we're seeing that there is a steady decline in organic matter. We're pulling these samples, we're adding what that next year's crop needs, and then we're trying to utilize whatever we put out, right? And so that coupled with the constant tillage, we're seeing a breakdown in our soils and their classification as healthy.
That's absolutely right. I appreciate your insight there. Ty, you got anything to add to that in terms of soils?
I agree with Josh. In our northwestern soils, typically we're high pH, low organic matter, high calcareous soils, so we have a lot of nutrient tie-up. We have trouble with water penetration. We have problems with crusting and clods in seasons. So yeah, I think that when you ask if there's a perfect soil out there, at least we don't have it here. I can tell you that.
That's absolutely right. I think it's far and few between. And once we rip open the soil and start working it and pull it out of its natural state, things start to decline, and we've got to work as best we possibly can to bring that back up, to make sure the production's there and the opportunity for the grower to be successful. And that's where we just drive into these humus or humic substances. And I'll give you a quick breakdown of some of the origins. I mean, this material bases off of a linardite, which is just a fuzz hair off of coal. So it's not fully insoluble, but it's just right before that next transition. It's thousands of years of plant residue, forest materials that have been layered into the soil and broken down over time. And it is a process that takes thousands of years. We have a unique source, and that's one of the points that I want to really drive home, is that we have a freshwater source as compared to majority of the rest of humics out there on the market today are saltwater sources of some type of, usually a grassland of some sorts. And we're in more of a heavily forested, lots of vegetation, provides a different type of humic in general when it is mined out of the ground. And let's think of this as in layers as we work down to through the soil surface. Where our deposits are being freshwater, a lot of quality vegetation that has broken down over time, but it also is very sandy soil that it's being mined in. It's only about 6 feet below the surface, which gives us the one piece of humics that folks forget or don't realize. Iron and oxidation is a huge part of a humic product that makes it better and more quality and more effective in terms of its efficiencies gained when added with fertilizer into the agricultural system. And to me, that's one of our main points, is that, a lot of times folks that don't have those opportunities, they're mining out of heavy soils. They're having to lay that humic substance up on the surface and let it oxidize for months and even years to try to have it into the same quality that we do. Initially, when we mine, the quality's there, and that's why our humic, you'll see kind of a brownish tint to it, and that's the oxidation. And so if you're comparing humic substances, especially the dry mined material raw, like our composed G, that would be a kind of a brownish color, and that's the oxidation. And I think that's a key take home and another differentiator that we've got to work with. And we'll start to try to break down these humic substances, which are made up of three fractions: humic acid, humus or humin, and then fulvic acid. And Ty, do you want to just kind of break into what humic acids are, just as we start to split apart these humic substances?
Sure. So basically, for time, we're going to go through it real quick, but humic acids basically are deposits that are, under the soil that have been broke down for decades, whether that's forest, grass, those types of things. In their mind, they're very large molecules, so they're very good for soil structure. They're not so good for getting nutrients into the plant. That's more on the fulvic side, and I think we'll touch on that in a little bit, but they are large molecules, so they're very good for water holding, penetration, those types of things, soil structure type things. They're a net negative charge. Our composed G is about a pH of 4 to 4.5, so we do buffer some salts. That's kind of how we, solubilize nutrients, make them available to the plant. They're dark in color. They're soluble in alkaline solutions, but they're not soluble in acidic solutions. Mainly the humic acids mainly are for soil applications. They will have a little bit of benefit as a foliar, but we typically focus on soil applications with humic acids.
Well, thanks, Ty. That's a great breakdown of humic acid, and I just really appreciate the fact of being soluble in alkaline solutions, and just to reference that, why we have successes in a lot of our areas. If you're in a high pH type soil, you're going to see those raw materials, humic, they're going to start alkaline hydrolysis, and that's where you're going to see that material start to break down fairly rapidly, and that will start to, especially in soluble salts, if you've got a salt issue, humics can be very effective in those high pH soils to drop that out of the soil profile. So I think Ty hit on a really impactful benefit of those products, especially around the humic acid itself. And I think we can just kind of, as a group here, talk about some of the benefits that we've seen from these humic acid materials. One that I think is intriguing is, just the pathways as it breaks down and goes through alkaline hydrolysis. You've got a nutrient exchange between the soil and the plants that is improved in that breakdown process. You've got some other intriguing pieces of it in terms of the chelation of like a salt and dropping it through the soil profile. You guys want to just mention a few of the benefits that you see?
Yeah. So one of the ones that I think's real intriguing and important is humics are a food source for microorganisms. Those microorganisms are extremely important to breaking down residues. They're extremely important to nutrient cycling, helping those nutrients become soluble and available. Where I was a crop advisor, we had salts and year over year we're adding fertilizers that are salt based. We also had lots of manures and compost. And so one of the things that we can do with humics is we can put them through the water and help push some of those salts down through that profile. So those are just two things that we hadn't really talked about that I find real intriguing and beneficial when it comes to humics in agriculture.
Oh, thank you, Josh. Is there anything I missed, Ty? You see any more benefits or opportunities with a humic acid that would be important to a grower?
Well, there's so many of them, but the key ones for us, I mean, we're out applying the composed products as we speak, for next spring, and mainly, we're doing that for crusting, so we can have a better seed bed, better germination in the spring. I mean, we're applying this product, 6 months prior to the crop, to really help with our soil structure, and that's where the humics fit the most. And to follow up on what Josh said, our humics that we provide are very high in carbon, which is a very good food source for our microbial activity in the soil. And so when you put it all together, it's a very complete product. And when we improve that soil structure, we're going to hold more water, we're going to penetrate water better, and see less crust, less clods, those types of things. So.
Excellent. I'm glad you covered those and put that in perspective of the uses currently. And that's exactly right. We've got stimulating root and shoot growth, increases germination. The list goes on, but we've hit some of the major benefits that we've seen over time using these products and where they seem to fit the best. And Josh, as we start to look at these other two portions, the human and the fulvic acid, you want to kind of just run through those real quick. What are those? What exactly is a fulvic acid? What its kind of a key features that distinguish it as a fulvic acid, and then obviously into the human portion?
Yeah. So fulvic acids are molecularly small in size. They're golden color. One unique thing about fulvic acids compared to humics is they're soluble in all solutions. So it doesn't matter if you've got a high pH or a low pH. They're extremely soluble. When we talk about fulvic acids, you can look at soil applications, but real big play is foliar applications. As far as benefits go, fulvic acids they're good binders or chelators. And they're really good about driving nutrients into plants. And Ty had talked about it. You'd talked about how fulvic acids, how humic acids are kind of those channels, right? The fulvic acids, again, they really help drive those nutrients into tissues and into the plants. When we look at human is extremely large and heavy. It's black in color. It's not soluble in any pH. And when we talk about the benefits, we really focus on water holding capacity, your soil structure, and CEC. So those are just some of the main overviews of fulvic acids and human.
Absolutely. Now just kind of a wrap up on the fulvics. I mean, that small molecular size, they're great in that chelation binding process and transferring those nutrients through the leaves throughout the plant. Their movement is really, really good, and that is key in on its small molecular size. Human by definition is the insoluble portion of humic acid. All of our composed products, other than G, have had the human filtered out. So when Ty spoke earlier about composed G, the raw mined material that we spread dry, it has the human portion with it, and that's also where it provides and brings that benefit of water holding capacity and some of that soil structure benefits there. But our WSP, composed SE, those have had the human filtered out, and that helps us with our ability to move through drip line, spaghetti lines on planters, things like that, without having plugging up issues, and eliminate some of the frustrations that people have had early on with humics, and have caused folks to have a potentially a bad taste in their mouth is because of the struggles to work with those liquid formulations. And we've eliminated that and helped our products, composes in terms of the liquid, to be much more user-friendly. And I think that drives us right into the next question of is it better to use Humic or fulvic? So that's a great question and a great concept that we face a lot of where do we put these, what distinguishes them, what makes them different. Humic acids in general, let's look at a mined material like Compose G. It contains all three portions. So you've got humic acid, you've got the human portion, and you've got fulvic acid. So you pick up all of those benefits from all three. So when you look at that, especially in the high pH soils and those applications, you've got a really inclusive product that's bringing a lot of value there. When we look at just a liquid humic product that we filter out the human, we're still humic acids and we're still carrying some fulvic acid along with it. We've got a lot of opportunities, but the easiest way for me to distinguish these is let's look at humic acids like roads or tunnels. They create pathways to the plant for that nutrient exchange. Fulvic acids are more like, if we think of a train, and they're more like a rail car on that train. They're driving in because of that small molecular weight. They're moving material. Humics, black material, soil applications, all day long. Fulvics have an opportunity to ride not only in the soil, but also in that foliar application. So when we look at these products, your fulvics are much more you're going to see much more benefit out of that foliar application by the way they can move nutrients into the plant. And humics, they have opportunity as a foliar too, but they're seeing that as the water pushes that material into the soil, you're getting the biggest benefit from the soil. So to keep it simple, in my mind, I have to keep things simple, but the black humic materials are soil applied. Fulvic acids can go either direction, but where you get the slam dunk with a humic is in a foliar application. And Ty, you got any additions to that, just in trying to keep it simple, how to break down those applications?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on. I mean, the humic acids, typically we focus on our soil structure. So we're mainly looking at broadcast applications on the soil, on the dry. It blends very well with fertilizers. So the only watch out is if you're in a very high humidity situation and you're putting it with a product like urea or something like that. I mean, humic acid's job is to draw moisture. So if you're in a very high humidity type situation and you mix it with fertilizer and you get shut down for the day, you could get that a little bit slimy and stuff. But if you're just going straight out to the field, it blends very well. When we talk about fulvics, Josh touched on the molecule size. They're typically like a tenth of what the humics are, so very good for uptake. So you talked about foliar, Cody. Another big use for us of our fulvic acids is we're banding it with liquid fertilizers, whether that's a starter fertilizer, whether that's right now in the fall we're going in there and we're marking out for next spring's crop and we're banding phosphate right down that row. Well, we're putting in that fulvic acid right with that phosphate, and it's going to improve that uptake in the spring when that plant starts growing. We side dress it when we're side dressing corn or onions or sugar beets. We're putting that right with that fertilizer, and anytime we put that in the soil with our liquid fertilizers, we're getting better uptake. And so we focus the humics kind of on our soil, so more of a broadcast situation. They work great in a band. You can absolutely band our humic acids, but you're only going to get that soil structure part in that inch or two band that you're applying it in, where the fulvic is doing all the hard work of uptaking the nutrients. So I like the fulvic in there, and it's gold, so it's clear. You can see your red balls. You're not dealing with a black substance, and so it works really great. So that's kind of how we position them.
Thanks, Ty. I appreciate that. That's brought us kind of full circle and gives us an opportunity to kind of roll right into our brands of products and the Compose brands, and then obviously Golden Bio as well, which is our fulvic. And Ty, in your expert opinion, own the Compose brands, and we can separate them out. I just want to kind of have some ideas. You've already mentioned a few, just where you've had some of these successes, but let's take Compose G to start with. Where, if you had a choice in your situations and experiences, where are you going to put Compose G?
So, like we spoke, most of these are going on a broadcast situation. We're fertilizing right now, and we're going out there on kind of a soil maintenance program. We're typically around 40 or 50 pounds per acre yearly. And it doesn't matter if it's a wheat crop, a corn crop, alfalfa crop. We're treating the soil yearly, so we're 40 to 50 pounds. Now, if we go into a situation where a grower rents a field and he's got some real issues with, alkali or salts or high pH or those things, we'll go up to 100, 150 pounds per acre on those situations. But in our maintenance programs, we're typically, 40 to 50 pounds every year. And we see that's been a really good rate for us to kind of, every year see the benefits that we're doing. So, and we're doing it, like I said, in the fall right now for next year's crop, but we also do a lot of it in the spring as well, but mainly a broadcast application.
Man, I love your excitement behind it. I tell you what, it's I get excited talking about these products, but in terms of the liquid, whether it's WSP or Compose, where have you seen successes there and uses in those liquids?
So, like you said, our Compose WSP, they have removed the human substance that's in that. So it does have a little bit of benefit, but it does take decades to break down in the soil, the human part of it. Anytime you've ever talked to somebody that's dealt with a liquid humic acid, they'll say, "Oh man, that stuff plugs me up." I've had issues with filters and especially in the springtime when it's cold and right out of the tank. That is one thing about the WSP that is very that I like a lot about it is that we've removed that human, and that is the part that's going to plug your filters. So we do away with that. The handleability of this product is superior over anything else out there, and by removing that human, it gives us a higher carbon base, so we get better plant activity, better green up, better microbial activity in the soil. So it is actually a better plant active material when we remove that, and it's so much easier to handle. So we use that product a lot in foliar applications. We're doing a lot of sprays and over the year. It does have the fulvic side of it too, but we're running it through pivots. A lot is for water penetration and those types of things, and then we get our nutrient release and those parts of it as well. So
that's great. I appreciate that, and that's truly the plant active portions of the humic acid, and I appreciate you bringing that forward to everyone's attention. And then Compose SE, I'll jump into that. Compose WSP is water soluble powder. That's what the WSP stands for. Compose SE, the SE stands for seaweed extract, which we've got Compose WSP with an addition of a seaweed Ascophyllum nodosum, which provides a whole nother level of benefits in terms of a seaweed and what that does in plants' ability to mitigate some stresses out there. So you combine those two together, that's a pretty superior product as well in what it does health-wise for the plant and its ability to withstand some of the tougher conditions that we run into, along with the benefits of the humic. So it's a combination product that is really, really a good one in my opinion, and I think we'll continue to see it move and grow. It's a newer one in our portfolio, and I think we're going to see it continue to take off because of the benefits that it brings to the table. Josh, before we move into Golden Bio, do you have any other additions you would like to make on Compose G or Compose WSP or SE?
When I think about, those three different products, I think about all the different, agronomic opportunities and the value to the grower, his crops and his yields. We've talked a lot about it, right? Like there's different benefits with these humic products, whether it's in, your water penetration, distribution, retention, your nutrient availability, solubility, uptake, utilization, the microbial populations. There's a host of them, right? And so, as you think about 2025 and your growers' crops and all the agronomic opportunities, think about these different products, right? Composed G, Composed WSP, Composed SE. Where's the right fit for the right product? Anyhow, I just, after listening to you and Ty, talk about these different products, I just think that we've got this suite of composed brands, and there's so much opportunity with them, and so I think that as we go into the winter and as we gear up for the springtime, it's on us to think about how to utilize these products to bring more value to our growers. So
that's great, Josh. I appreciate it. There's a lot of opportunity. And we've got, I think, opportunity this year, especially with the kind of volatile environment that we've seen out there, with costing on things, that these products bring value and opportunity to help our growers be more efficient and get more bang for their buck, let's say. There's opportunity, and hopefully through this we're starting to clear the mud a little bit on where these products go and how they fit. And I want to finish up with Golden Bio and the fulvic portion. Ty, do you want to just give a rundown of how you've used that product, where you've seen the successes, and kind of what that looks like in your world?
So like we mentioned earlier, the fulvic acid side of it, the Golden Bio, it's a very small molecule, so it's easily taken in by the plant. It's going to help with nutrient uptake. We've even used it in some glyphosate applications, because it actually will help pull the glyphosate in to the plant as well, and we see some better efficacy out of our glyphosate when we apply it that way on some tougher to control weeds. So it has that capability. But when we talk about Golden Bio, my main focus is nutrient uptake, like I said. So, and that doesn't matter if that's with a foliar nutrient to try to get better uptake, or if it's through the soil in a banded application. We see very good results with the Golden Bio. It's a very clean, very easy to use, very compatible product, and it works well for us for that nutrient uptake side.
I couldn't have summarized that much better, Ty. I think that's a great fit for Golden Bio. I mean, it's clearly, it's all about nutrient uptake and efficiency. So when we're looking at that separation, in my mind, Golden Bio has its fit exactly in those foliar applications and soil. But we want to be in those root zones. We want to be on the leaves. We want that opportunity for it to be that rail car driving those nutrients into the soil, from the soil to the plant roots, and also through the leaves into the plant. So it's key there. Just to break it back down as we start to conclude here, lots of opportunities as we move in from this late fall into spring. There's applications still we can make in the fall. Spring, there's a lot of opportunities. In the right environments, the humic materials have a great soil application and do a lot of really good things in the soil. And we brought those benefits to the surface. We've got our plant nutrient uptake efficiencies of the fulvic acid or a Golden Bio. So to me, just to wrap up with you guys, we key in on that foliar application with Golden Bio and soil applications, especially if we're looking at trying to do some soil amending, things like that, with our dry Composed G. Our liquid Humics are still there for providing those benefits in the soil for the microbial populations, and still bringing nutrients efficiencies and building those roads and tunnels and building those pathways out to those plants. Just as a final note, what are your guys' thoughts on the products as we look into spring of 25? Where do we have these fit, or is there anything that you would like to have a message out to the folks, or where you think you would like to see these products going as we move into the spring, Ty?
Well, I mean, I think we've covered kind of what where we use these products quite a bit. The key thing when I look at the composed products, I mean, I've dealt with a lot of different humic acids through the last 35 years in the industry, and some of the key things that, we run into, sometimes we'll run into a humic that they say, hey, this is just as good and it's a little bit cheaper. Now, make sure it's a fresh water source. I mean, one of the key things with this composed brand is it's a fresh water source. It's not a salt water source. So when we're trying to help our high salt soils, we don't need to be adding more salt. So, ask the question, is it a fresh water source? That's key with composed. Another key thing with it is the quality that we get with this product. The Composed G is screened very well. We remove a lot of those fines, so it's not as dusty as some of the typical dry humic acids. It's more of it's a better granular quality, so it blends well with other dry fertilizers and it doesn't all end up in the bottom of the truck. Now, you will have some dust. It's going to be, it's just the nature of that product as it grinds up and goes through loaders and augers and those types of things. It will kind of crumble a little bit, but the quality of it is so much better than typical dry humics and blendability of it. And then when we talk about the WSP and the SE, remember the handling part of that. When you deal with liquid humics, there's always going to be plugging issues. These products are very clean, very easy to use. They blend well with other liquids. We haven't had any compatibility issues that I can think of now, other than like an acidic situation, but we don't put those in there very often. So just the quality of the composed products overall is what kind of comes to mind when I think of those.
Perfect. I love that. Quality is key, and I think we have one of the best, if not the best, source of humics in the marketplace, and quality is key in that, along with several of the other benefits that we've talked about. Josh, I know you like to have the last word, so.
No.
I'll put you on the spot, but go ahead.
No, like I said before, I think that when you look at either agronomic challenges or agronomic opportunities, that's where these composed brands or Golden Bio fit. There's so many benefits associated with humic acids. There's so many benefits associated with fulvic, with human, and so I think that's the beauty of these brands, these products is there are so many fits. We're not providing growers with a silver bullet, but you can break these products down by the humic, fulvic, or human pieces, and you can overcome agronomic challenges and bring more value to these growers, either inputs or crops, and so. I think Ty's summed it up really, really well as far as like the different brands and opportunities. But I just feel like, as far as Innvictis Bioscience goes, this is a unique, a set of products just because of all the different facets and opportunities with them. So, anyhow.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. It is a great brand shelf, and I appreciate the time everybody take to listen to this. I hope we provide some value to that. I want to make a big shout out to Brian, Dom, and Ryan for accommodating us and putting up with all of our shenanigans here this morning. But if you got questions, guys, feel free, reach out to myself, Josh, Ty, also any of the Innvictis Bioscience SAMs in your areas. All of us would be glad to help you and give you some guidance and direction where to place these products if you've got any questions. Let's just try to make 25 as impactful as we possibly can for our growers and bring value to them. And these products definitely do that when we put them in those positions for success. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cody.